firm. I'm Cruz, and I'm here with Lane, and we're going to be talking about meeting extensibility and what that means for you all. So it's really about your meetings purpose, being interactive during the meetings, and a new feature set that we do have built into Microsoft Teams that we are very excited to share with you today.
Thanks, Ryan. And we want to jump in and talk for a minute about what is meetings extensibility. As we stop, we take a moment, we think about what a meeting is. Really, a meeting starts before the meeting actually is scheduled and happens. It continues till well after the meeting may end. There are assignments, there's responsibilities that may need to be followed up on. And so in today's world, and all that we have to deal with, we want to ensure that you all have the tools to make sure that nothing gets missed, that people are able to collaborate before the meeting starts, have the most effective meeting possible, and then continue on with those assignments or responsibilities after a meeting has occurred. Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. You know, meeting extensibility is really about bringing more into that meeting experience. And as we kind of move forward into the next slide here, and we're looking at the environment we're going to be working in, it's going to be a unique one. We've gone from being in office locations, collaborating within a huddle room, an actual meeting room that might be set up in your office workspace. And now we're actually in this position to where we're going to be working in a very much a hybrid remote work scenario. So as a lot of our customers are shifting back into their offices, there may be capacity limitations on how many people can actually be there to participate at the same time. So what that leaves us with is this moment to where a lot of those team members that are going to be critical to those meetings may be remote. Maybe there's a few people that are together within a huddle room, and then there's maybe half the team remote at their home office, collaborating and being involved in the meeting itself. And so as we look at collaborating, we really need to make sure that we're having interactive meetings, that we're looking at bringing this forward to all participants of Teams meetings and making sure that everybody has an opportunity to contribute, to really participate in the meeting experience and add value to the team and really feel included in that process as well. And so, Lane, any kind of thoughts on that remote work hybrid experience and where we are today?
Definitely. You know, there's no question that what we've heard over and over again over the last year is that this is the new normal. And that we're never going to go back to the way that it was before. We expect that this hybrid work environment is where we're going to be for the foreseeable future. So as we look at our customers that have been on the forefront of this change and the ones that are already starting into that hybrid environment, we started to see what is the most successful model. One of the most successful approaches is to meet people where they already are. What does that mean? It means that they've gotten used to certain tools. They've gotten used to utilizing Teams over the last year, for instance. And so we want to stick with that, but how do we make that tool more powerful? Well, that's bringing in the other tools that they're familiar with into the Teams environment, and that's really what meetings extensibility is about. If you're a frequent user of Excel or Planner, something like that that you utilize to plan, to execute projects, and you're utilizing those, how do I incorporate those more fully into a Teams meeting? That's what we're going to get into today. Ryan?
I appreciate that, Lane. It's a great overview of really what it means to meet your people where they already are. And they could be in a different location, but they can also want to contribute at different times during the Teams meeting experience. And so as we kind of talk about the Teams meeting experience and that whole pre, during, and post-meeting experience, we're really going to start getting into some of the meat here of what we're discussing. So we can go to the next slide here, Lane. We're going to be showcasing what we mean by that environment. So a lot of us are wired differently. There's some people that are very agenda driven, want to know exactly what's going to be covered during the meeting before they jump into it, maybe review files, documents, and prepare themselves to really contribute into the collaboration, that interaction during the Teams meeting itself, you know, really setting those expectations. Other individuals might be more wired to jump into the meeting more ad hoc, be able to be in that meeting experience during the meeting itself, contribute, being able to speak more on the fly from that standpoint. And then we all have those processors on our teams that we work with and we collaborate with. And so maybe sometimes after the meeting, those individuals want to go back and really contribute to a document. Maybe it's a document you were co-authoring, or it could be a whiteboard session that you were providing with each other and you wanted to add your notes to it, or maybe take a poll that was brought into an actual Teams meeting to be able to give your perspective on how things are being run, what maybe operations look like, and where areas improvement might be. And so again, the before, during, and after meeting experience is a crucial one, and it really ties into that whole meeting extensibility experience. What are we going to bring in the meeting to add more value, keep people where they already are in the meeting itself versus jumping from window to window to window during the meeting and really kind of losing your place in where people are actually collaborating, interacting in that moment. Lane, anything to add on this before we move on?
Yeah, you've touched on some things that really get me excited about how we hold virtual meetings now. And that's the ability to kind of understand and be more prepared for the meeting that I'm going into. When I see people utilize meeting extensibility well, and they post those types of documents that you're referring to, when they hold polls even before a meeting starts, and I feel like I can give input, it feels like I'm more a part of the meeting. It also is something where I've struggled. I just don't do well on meetings that go an hour, 2 hours, things like that. So when a meeting can be held more efficiently, which is what this tends to drive, I see meeting time go down because of meeting extensibility. The amount of time that we're actually in a virtual meeting, people feel like they've already got what they need to go work on. So they can get together, they can confirm some small details maybe, but then get out of the meeting and go back to work. That really is something that's meaningful for me, and feedback that I've heard from a lot of my customers, what excites them. So I think that this is powerful, and I think, let's jump in real quick to some real life scenarios, what this meeting extensibility looks like. Let's talk about polls for a second. This specific one that you're seeing on the screen is Polly, and this is another fantastic way to keep people engaged in a meeting, real time. Throw out a poll, get people's thoughts, have them respond. There's a little bit of gamification too, if you think about it. I always kind of have fun seeing, I've got to put my response in order to be able to see how everyone else responded. That's a kind of a fun thing for me is, do I align with the team or don't I? It's something that I've really kind of enjoyed. So, getting real-time polls and being engaged with that is something that's real world and something that I think a lot of people find meaningful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Lane. And as we're looking at this actual screenshot, there are a couple areas I do want to call out. So at the very top of that screenshot there, where we're looking at Polly, that pop-up, where the question is, I feel supported as I work from home during this period. So this is really a poll about sentiment. How are we checking on our employees out there today that are working remotely? Understanding the impact that maybe the current pandemic or anything's had on them and how they're feeling in that moment. So this is a great way to catch a sentiment of the team that you're working with, to see how people are feeling and just kind of get everybody into more of an icebreaker type mentality and give you valuable information as the meeting organizer, as you're running in and running your meetings and generating these types of polls. This data that you're collecting can be used in a number of different ways. So at the very top along that meeting navigation bar, you'll see that the actual Poly logo is in the meeting navigation bar. And so when we speak towards meeting extensibility, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about bringing an application into the meeting experience. And so in this case, by adding Polly into this team's meeting, the meeting organizer now has the ability to select Polly at the very top of their navigation bar, right next to those three dots, the dot, ellipsis right there. You'll see that Polly symbol. And so again, it's that ability to keep the meeting organizer in the meeting. Right there front and center is that Polly application. We're going to take a little bit of a closer look now on what that looks like there within. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing from my window here, and I'm going to be bringing up a government demo environment. And here on my screen, you should be able to see now my actual Contoso calendar invite. So you'll see right here, there's a Contoso all hands meeting front and center that we've already created here. We are in the web browser experience of Microsoft Teams. And again, this is a government demo environment that we're looking at here today. And I wanted to walk you through the step as a meeting organizer. When you have a meeting that you've established, you are in control of what you bring into the actual meeting experience. And so what I mean by that, this is a meeting that's already been established here. So we're going to go ahead and open this meeting up. You're going to see here that we've invited a couple of individuals here on the screen, but what I really want to show you is when you go to that plus symbol, I'll do that again at the very top. We're at the Contoso all hands meeting, chat, files, details, scheduling assistant, meeting notes. I'm going to go ahead and select that plus symbol. That plus symbol brings up all of the applications.
Sorry, y'all, just it looks like the sound is a little bit faster than the video image.
I can not only bring in an application that's already created by a third-party partner that's developed an application for a Teams meeting, but I can also bring in a Power App application that I've optimized for a Teams meeting into the Teams meeting experience itself. So we do have a lot of ability to control what this looks like, what we're going towards here, and what that experience is that we want to bring in this meeting. So right here, we're talking about Polly. We're going to bring Polly right into this meeting. So I'm going to add Polly here, and it's going to authenticate, bring Polly into this actual meeting experience. So as this is loading itself up, it's going to be checking my account. You do get a number of uses without a license with Polly to use on a per month basis. And if you do have an account, you are able to leverage more feature sets that they have built into it. So as Polly's actually loading the account here, we're going to get a couple of interactions and abilities to get this going. So I'm going to hit save here to add Polly into this meeting experience. And now this is going to bring Polly as an option on that top hand rail across my tabs. And so once Polly's completed setting itself up, I will be able to go in, add polls into this Teams meeting. I'll be able to.
I just wanted to make a comment here that a lot of you are commenting that you don't see Polly in your environment. And that is because Polly is what we consider a third-party application. And any third-party application has to be enabled by your Teams admin in order for it to show in your Teams container. So it is available in GCC, but it does have to be enabled in the tenant by an admin in order for it to be available. And of course, considering whatever your organizational policy is for allowing third-party apps.
Use some of the templated solutions that Polly has already created and given to me as an end user to use during the Teams meeting. So I can either create my own polls or I can use a template. So when I come to create here, it's going to bring up an interface here, a templated environment where I can walk through and either create a question, a quiz, maybe a trivia question, Q&A, and it really walks you through that experience. So a question here, as I'm bringing this up, maybe it's a multiple choice question. You know, how are you feeling today? And I can say, add all the options in here, happy, sad, you know, add more choices, be tired. You know, we hear a lot from a lot of people juggling different responsibilities in their lives right now. And then I get to sit here and select different availability of the results itself. So I can make those results available to everyone in real time, show after close, hidden from audience. So I get a lot of control on this actual experience when I'm actually setting up a question for this meeting here that we're going to be having here in a moment. I can also come in here and create from a templated environment that Polly has already provided here for us as well. And so as we're jumping in some of these templates that they do provide us, they have a lot of templates for all hand meetings, one-to-one coordination, meeting feedback. So I'm just going to select all hands meeting feedback. I'll get to see all of the pre-canned questions they've already established for an all hands meeting feedback. And I'm just going to go ahead and click save here for the sake of time. And as we're walking through this, what you'll see here is now I have this dashboard as the actual meeting organizer. And as you're looking at these actual questions that I've added in here, you'll see that they're ready to be sent out. And so given that we're in a meeting and being in a meeting is a little bit difficult at times, what I do want to show you as the experience here is that I can actually even send these questions out before the meeting has started. So if I come over here and I want to know how the team is feeling before we jump on the call, I can send this out. And once that meeting is sent out, it's actually going to be sent out into the chat environment. So when you come over here to the meeting chat, this is where that actual meeting question that I just sent out is going to be popping up here for us front and center. And so as soon as this chat environment loads up before the meeting, there's the actual Poly environment. So I can come in here into the chat window. So I'm feeling pretty happy today, submit my vote. And now me as an individual, I've let that meeting organizer know exactly how I feel at that moment. And I get those instant results like we talked about before. So again, this is the whole idea of, as the meeting organizer, having a tremendous amount of control into that interactive meeting, that collaboration that we're looking to establish. So this is a great way to consider polling during a Teams meeting, bringing a Teams meeting optimized application into it, and moving forward from there. So Lane, anything to add on this?
No, I think you really touched on how easy it is, the ability to engage. And what really struck me here is this is actually exactly the way one of my major departments, the Department of Mental Health in a large organization, engaged their own employees through the pandemic. From the very beginning, they met with them weekly. And so those simple questions, like you pointed out, just how are you feeling? They engage their own employees in a mental health way. So, you know, there's just so many uses for how this can go, whether it's engaging the public and your constituents or your own employees. And so it's really exciting to see how far this can go and what all it can do to help.
Appreciate that. Elaine, if you bring up the slide deck again, I do want to start talking a little bit more about, and I'm sure some of you caught it, that we're not only talking about applications that are developed by our partners out there that are available for a meeting experience, but we're also referring to applications you can build in your own environment. So I made a comment earlier about bringing a Power App solution into a Teams meeting experience. And so really the way we need to look at that is taking a business problem and driving it to a solution within that actual Teams meeting. So as we're moving forward, Lane, into the next slide here, we're going to talk really quick here about a patient customer workflow. And so as we're looking at this patient customer workflow, this is really a unique use case that we've come across from our customer feedback. So as we're jumping in here and keep pumping me through the slides here as we're working through the patient customer workflow itself, we found out that there was 3 primary problems here. So our customer needed the ability to simplify the process of jumping into a virtual customer facing meeting. And when I say customer here, I'm not talking about you being our customer as Microsoft customers. I'm talking about the people you serve. So really, how are we jumping into those virtual customer facing meetings? And then also needing the ability to leverage maybe a text message type of a solution to communicate with customers. So a lot of our customers at times are more comfortable with text message communication, and they already get confirmation emails sometimes for some of the departments that they're going to get services from. So the ability to bring a texting communication type solution into the meeting workflow was another key business problem that they were looking to solve. And then the last one, and this was probably the most important one that really highlighted, I think, the major problem we're trying to solve here. This particular customer was spending a lot of time with their customer base, so their patients, helping them navigate their free email platforms, Yahoo Mail, Gmail, Outlook.com, any of the email platforms out there that are free that a lot of our customers use today out there in the public, in the communities that you all serve, helping them find those meeting invites. Where are those meeting invites? Sometimes they land in the junk folder. Sometimes if you're meeting with a patient, maybe they forgot their email password. So a lot of time is trying to help our customer base navigate how to find just the meeting invite itself. and we're wasting valuable time in that moment. So kind of taking it one step further from Microsoft Teams being an opportunity to meet your people where they already are, from a polling perspective, it's also an opportunity for customers, you all, to meet the people you serve where they already are. And a lot of times that could be in more of a text communication type workflow. So as we jump into the next slide here, what we're really here to talk about is that whole Power App type solution. So this patient communicator app, a Power App solution, this was a custom application that was built to really solve this problem. And what I'm showing here on the screen is you'll see on that right-hand side of that image that the patient communicator application is embedded into the Teams meeting. So the workflow here is that you start a Teams meeting. So looking at this from really any public facing service that you provide to your constituents, maybe permitting and planning, it could be with social services, maybe it's an employment development meeting that you're looking to set up, or even a telehealth type workflow. And so in this case, the patient communicator app, once you load it into the actual meeting itself, you can take those meeting details, copy it, and drop it right into the text box at the very bottom. The next step is to input the patient's cell phone number into that phone number window. The moment you hit send on that, you jump into the patient workflow. And now you, as maybe the mental health nurse or physician, doctor, anybody, permitting and planning department, anybody that's going to be meeting with somebody that's customer facing, from a service perspective, then the patient in this case is going to receive that SMS text workflow. And so jumping into the next screen here, what you're going to end up seeing is the workflow from your customer's perspective. In this case, you see that this individual received a text message with a Teams meeting link. That link can be hyperlinked and cleaned up a lot. But as soon as that patient selects that meeting link, it opens up the Get Teams window if it's not already on the phone. And once you select Get Teams, you'll see here in this workflow, Google Play Store opened up, starts installing the Teams application. And then my favorite part is the moment you hit open, after it's already installed and loaded onto your phone, it brings you back to the join meeting screen. So right here on this slide that you're looking at right now, as the patient jumps in and has already installed the Teams application, you jump in to join the meeting and you're right there putting in your name to jump into the actual, in this case, patient meeting, telehealth type of experience and meeting. And now everything is gone through a cleaner workflow, removing the need to help our patients find the meeting details and invite in their email environment, help them troubleshoot, find their passwords, get into it, and spending a lot of time with our medical personnel in this case, sitting on the phone, playing IT support, and helping their patients connect. And so as we jump into the meeting itself, you'll see that at the end of this workflow, the patient is actually in the meeting, and in this case, with the physician waiting to meet with them. So again, this is a phenomenal example of the power of meeting extensibility. So not only can you bring in a third-party application into the Teams meeting experience, but you can also bring in a Power App solution that you've created to solve a business problem in your organization on how you serve your customers and solve that type of a problem in a workflow environment. So Lane, anything that you want to add here before we close up?
Yeah, just a couple thoughts. And Ryan, such an awesome overview of a powerful solution. Love that you called out that, you know, although this one happened to be healthcare, that it can apply to so many other scenarios in government. And really what we've demonstrated here over the last several minutes is that there's really kind of a spectrum of what meeting extensibility means. You know, as you're sitting there, as you're thinking about what we've shown today and how do you get started in it, you know, there can be a little bit of a crawl, walk, run scenario going on. Some of this may feel very advanced to build and create your own Power App and stand it up in Teams. We get that, but that doesn't mean it's difficult to get started with meetings extensibility. Again, there's things that are ready to go out of the box today that you can include just by hitting the plus sign in your meeting and adding documents or a poll before a meeting starts. So how do we help you get started? Contact your CSM. We can help, whether that be training on the tools that are already ready to go out of the box, getting you set up with training for internal developers that might be able to get going on those Power Apps, or getting you introduced to Microsoft partners, the full ecosystem that we have that can bring paid resources to help you stand a full solution up in a Power App scenario as well. So we can help from beginning to end to get you engaged, whether it's, again, just basic training all the way through full support with a Microsoft partner. And those are very important things to understand, that you have resources and help to get you going with meetings extensibility and get more out of Teams. Ryan, any other thoughts?
Absolutely, Lane. Yeah, the last thought here is really that those powers need to control what this looks.
Sorry, I did not mean to do that. I wanted to ask Stacy if you still have your demo tenants up. They keep referencing the plus sign for meeting extensibility, but I think the video skipped it or something happened. So I wanted to see if you could show that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will turn on sharing in just a sec. Let me fire it up over here.
In the meantime, I'll allow Brian to finish his thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
You and the customer success unit really bring a tremendous amount of value in solving those business problems with the technology that you already own today. So on that note, I do want to say thank you. I know your time is valuable. Thank you for spending time with Lane and I here today. We certainly always enjoy doing this together and showcasing the power of the solutions that you all own today. So again, thank you.
All right, perfect. Stacy, whenever you're ready.
Okay. I am sharing now. Let me know when you see my content.
We do.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, the plus sign that keeps coming up in Ryan's video is part of those meeting details, all the extras that are part of a Teams meeting. So to get to those from your browser or your Teams client, click on Calendar, then drill in and click on the meeting that you want to add an app to. And you're going to want to expand the meeting details, and that will give you a whole page dedicated to everything about this meeting. And across the top, you have the chat and the files and the other parts and pieces that I referenced in my demo, and the infamous plus sign. So this is where you would go to add those additional parts and pieces from third-party apps or various other apps into your meeting. And you can do that before the meeting. You should do it before the meeting. So have in mind what you want to use, and you can come in as meeting organizer and take advantage of that.
Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Stacy, could I just, Asaita, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted Stacy to show, for those of you who don't see any apps at all, Stacy's in a government tenant. And if you go back to that plus again and just kind of scroll through the apps.
Sure.
I just want you all to know there are over 400, if not more than that, apps that are in this very extensive list. And as your IT organization, your security organization approves them, then they are made available through either the pluses or the ... dots on the left-hand rail. So you do have a ton of opportunity to expand how you use Teams. But by definition, by default, these are all not made available to end users until the governance is in place to let you have them. So when we say talk to your IT admin, this is what we're needing you to do, but it's all there for you, and we hope many of these are products you may have already paid for and would just benefit from adding them. I know Workday, Kronos, ServiceNow all have apps. Adobe Sign, I believe DocuSign has one. We really want you to think about how can you use Teams as the place you do business to include all the tools that are helpful to you, and many of those tools have made apps for Teams.
And I just added a website for the security and compliance details for each of these third-party apps. And so it's in the chat. And that just goes app by app and has a lot of additional information and clickable links for your security and compliance teams so that they can get comfortable with the third-party app.